Hi.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome. First, let me just introduce our speaker unit masters week 4. So we're in cohort 7. This week we speak about different projects in DeFi and NFT, Metaverse and gaming. And our guest speaker today is an expert in the gaming slash Metaverse environment. Ryan is originally from Singapore and he's working with Delphi Digital. And apart from working for really good crypto research company. He's also a game designer and has built games before and built communities before. So anything, related to understanding how the gaming market works or how the history has been and where it's headed, these are questions you can ask to our speaker today, who's joining us actually live from the Slush event in Helsinki, which is really, really cool. So hopefully you can also share a little bit of what's actually happening right now, like live at conferences. What are people talking about? Thank you very much for being with us, and the
Yeah,
stage is all yours.
thank you very kindly for the introduction. Yeah. So I'll introduce a bit of myself and also a bit about like Delphi Digital and basically the work we do there. And then yeah, we can start with that. So my name's Ryan, as so kindly introduced, and I'm a game economist at Delphi Digital. Before that, I worked on our own play-to-earn games, right? So play-to-earn is a new monetization model, which we kind of dive into and explore today. I want to kind of focus the conversation around that a little bit, but then also open up some more interesting things in the intersection of crypto and games, right? So Delphi Digital is a crypto research company, right, at heart, but we also incubate projects, and we invest pretty actively. We are 70 strong now with team members all over the world. Our headquarters is based in New York, but really we are all over. So as Tip so kindly introduced, we're based in Singapore. I'm based in Singapore. I'm strongly considering Europe and London though. Be nice. Yeah, so Delphi, basically, I spend a lot of time looking at games and looking at how games have, progressed as an industry from the past, and then how, the new monetization model shift that is called like play to earn, and I can talk a bit more about that in just a minute. Yep. So my background is in computer science. I was doing a software engineering role at a voice game startup, and afterwards I basically did my own play to earn games, and I was writing a set of articles around play to earn. Right. So how do you kind of understand this new monetization model? Right. So maybe I can begin by talking a bit about the history of games. Right. So that's about me and that's about Delphi. So I'll speak about the history of game monetization so far and the challenges that games face as a product, right? So with games, I think one challenge is that you need to fund the game. And the second challenge is that you need to have the game provide, revenues greater than its expenses and to perpetuate this be profitable, right? So the first challenge is one that, typically we think about like games as a whole broad genre of them, but I'm thinking really of the recent shift into free-to-play games, right? So I'll talk about like different ways that games kind of monetize and then how that's changing in crypto, right? So there's the funding element, and then there's the sort of making sure that they can run sustainably for a very long time element, right? So with regards to premium games, so this was like the first type of games that were really out there. I'm kind of discounting of course, like arcade machines and that monetization model here for the sake of kind of brevity. But premium games is what we call them, which are the games that you used to go to GameStop and you spend like 50 euros or 40 euros, and the incentive to build this experience that was interesting enough for someone to say, yeah, I would like to have 30 hours of gameplay this game, and I have a good time. Well, it'll be impactful for me, and I'll enjoy it, right? So that was kind of the monetization model there. You would sell, as a game developer, you would spend all this time building up this game, and then eventually this big release, start selling these on the shelves, right? Eventually that premium games still exist, right? Games like Cyberpunk 2077, for example, is a premium game, right? So that's one monetization model. And in the 2000s, it kind of shifted, like early 2000s, the 00s, so it kind of shifted towards free to play as a new sort of emergent model, right? For gameplay and so game monetization, right? So you design games So the core design focus of these games was focused around like how do you get users through paid acquisition, paid user acquisition, right? So you acquire users using advertisements. You would then sell ad inventory, you would sell microtransactions. And so rather than monetizing just once, you're working with the users to monetize. You're working to develop a game that where you can monetize the user many times because they are coming in and they're spending time in the game, they're watching advertisements, they're buying items and such like that, right? And so the incentives have changed. And I'll talk about that. Dennis has asked the question: do you think play to earn is a new paradigm? Yes, play to earn is a new paradigm. This is what I'll talk about right now. Yeah, I think it really is a drastic shift in the way in which one can think about monetization in games. And I read a lot about this on Metaversus and soon to be on Delphi's research platform as well. So Delphi Digital.io, that's the one. Metaversus, I can talk a bit more. I can share those resources later with the rest of you guys if that's helpful. So yeah, with free to play, then they actually like the market cap of games they went up 7x or 8x. So the total games market went from like 20 billion to about 175 billion as reported by Newzoo. And now I think with play to earn, you can say like there's a high potential that it could have a similar kind of paradigm shift, right? In how developers think about games. And the way sort of crypto enters into this, I like to think of crypto as like incentive alignment technology, right? So for the first time you can kind of build sort of plan out incentives and do mechanism design so that such that players, you can kind of predict, you can change the way in which like developers and investors and players kind of relate to each other in a financial kind of sense, right? So players that will end up funding games by buying into the crowd sales, right? There's one kind of tackling the first charge of funding. The second charge is of sustainability, right? So rather than having kind of a more unnatural, somewhat unnatural like funding mechanisms like advertisements, right? So like when you play like a free to play game, you might click something and it's like 30 seconds advertisement in between the game, in between games. This gives you game resources, right? But those ads actually end up being like money for the game dev, right? And it's almost like kind of break the immersion of the player. Like play to earn says like, hey, look, instead of taking money on the primary sales, we build an economy such as players are able to trade and transact in the game. And when you trade and transact in the game, we take a secondary cut. So your take rate, which is the amount you get from revenue, right, goes from 100% to 4.25% to 5. That's FIXC Infinity, one of the largest play-to-earn games out there. It goes to 2.5%, it goes to 10%, depending on what kind of games you make and how you design your economy. So the question of game economy design becomes a huge challenge here because it's like, now there's a lot of opportunities for game economy designers out there. People are interested in economics first place too. Would they have a test bed for like designing like financialized interactions by using crypto? So that's interesting there. Shift, like how do I keep create players, build the most fun and engaging game where players are, you design the economy such that players are interested in trading with each other, and whenever I buy something in game, actually I'm buying it from another player. So it's a whole economy that you're designing and stuff like it's a lot more dynamic, it's a lot more interesting because now players are incentivized not just to trade with each other, they're also incentivized to how do you say, in crypto parlance we say shield their bags, right? So what that means is like they're stakeholders within the game themselves, right? And because there's value to that drive these assets, then and the fact that we can sell off these assets, right? That allows them to, I guess, sell off their assets and then get some sort of real value for it. So the example I always use is like with World of Warcraft, right? So for example, in the game of World of Warcraft, you could have like a level 80 character with like great top end gear, right? And what the sort of where blockchain comes in with games is that it's creating this new norm, right? So it's a norm where if your characters are NFTs, for example, right, you're able to sell off the character easily. It's like there are established primitives in the blockchain side of things, like not just with regards to like NFT marketplaces, but also like decentralized finance, right? So having the treasury of the games be stored and earning yield in decentralized finance apps like Anchor, you can get 20% APY, for example, right now on US dollar stablecoins, right, through Anchor. And so these are the kind of things that crypto kind of allows these games now to sort of take alternative monetization models, so that game developers can just focus on making fun games that are engaging for players and monetize in a very natural kind of way. And when I talk about monetization, I mean the mentality shift of players in a sort of blockchain games is very, very different, because it's no longer I am, the it's no longer as a player, you're no longer kind of beholden almost to like, well, I can't as a player, you can't sell your assets, for example, right? So once you buy, it's like stuck there forever, right? You can't sort of resell those things. They have no more value, right? Financially, to you at least. They have all the revenue goes to the game devs, right? So now that's the opportunity for that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a broad basic summary of what play to earn looks like so far. And I can go for many more minutes about this, right? Many more hours, really. Probably podcast to come on Delphi's platform. Check it out. But I do write as well on Metaverse. So I wrote some free resources where anyone can come in and read more about like how this paradigm shift is happening, and with examples from past games and also examples of future games. So that's on the play to earn piece, and happy to take any questions on that. I see there's some in the chat. I can also talk a bit more about the metaverse if that's of interest. Although I'm particularly more interested in play to earn games than metaverse right now. Yeah.
Maybe you can even give us, the difference, like how should one use these terms? In which context does one use play to earn, and then in which context does one actually should use metaverse, and where should one not confound these concepts?
Yeah, that's a very good. That's a good idea. Yeah. So with play to earn, I think the core idea of play to earn is that you can enter into the game, and then you can make some money within the game, right? Just by playing through the game, and and you decide, if you decide to stop playing the game, you can sell those assets, right? That's like the most base version. But with play to earn, I think you can think of it as like, the phrase is as such, right? Like you're playing in order to earn, right? So this is this idea where I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but with Axie Infinity, for example, they've raised 150 mil at a 3 billion market cap approximately, right, for their Series B, and even with this kind of setup, like even before that, they were like have a token fully diluted valuation in the billions, right? So this play to earn, this is really like fueled on the back of like ideas such as like guilds, right? Like gaming guilds, like these these DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations that really focus on like collecting assets within these games, and then lending out these assets to players to begin playing the game. So that's it's almost become, so with play to earn, it's managed to like support, I think, tens of thousands of people in through the pandemic, right? So they were able to make more than the minimum wage just playing Axie as a scholar. So that's a very interesting kind of a rabbit hole we can go down as well. But yeah, that's play to earn. So play to earn refers to that kind of ability to work within the game, right? I think play and earn is a more broad term, right? So play and earn refers to kind of like, well, I can play, right, and enjoy the game, but it's actually a side effect. Like, if I don't like my level 80 Warlock anymore in World of Warcraft, I can sell it and I'll get some revenue back based on my time, right? So it's really just giving value, or like allowing players to unlock the liquidity of their game assets, right? Because those game assets are valuable in some way, but now you're just kind of like legitimizing the gray market rather than rather than saying like, hey, you can't do that, I'll ban you. Yeah, so let's play on it. as for the metaverse, oh wow, this is a really difficult one and a tough one actually. Like I think there's so many different definitions. The way I like to think about it is kind of like a shared context, right? So shared economy between uh, between um, different games or different kind of virtual experiences, right? So the clearest kind of the definition came from the word. Thank you. Thanks so much, my friend. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it. So I'm just about leaving the car. So sorry about that. Yeah. But nice, man. I'm good. Fantastic, man. Yeah. No, I would love. Let's connect. Yeah. So hype, dude. Nice to see, man. Nice to see. Yo, let's connect somehow. So our friend who safely ferried us to the sauna is also was also partaking in the lecture, and he was also interested in crypto. So he mentioned that we should connect. So I think he enjoyed the chat as well. It's great. Yeah. Let me write down my Twitter for you. So then let's chat. Sorry. I know this is a very odd. It's a very odd session. But
okay,
this is
we
what happens
make
when
an
you're at the conference.
exception because you are at the conference and took the time to still be with us, so that's highly appreciated. For those of you who don't know Slush, it's like one of the larger entrepreneurship
Twitter.
conferences in. Let me mute you, Ryan. Are you done?
I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, please mute me.
No, it's okay. No, you're back. I was just saying that like you are at Slush, and for those who don't know, that Slush is like one of the big entrepreneurship conferences in the Nordics. And this year they have very strong focus also on the metaverse and gaming and everything blockchain related. So a lot of like crypto people are actually currently in Helsinki. So what you're seeing is the back of Helsinki, I guess. Yeah, we were staying with the metaverse. So you were saying, look, this is a concept of, and then I think maybe you have to redefine because we lost the definition there. Oh, you can't speak. I'm sorry. 1 second. That's my bad. Ask to unmute. Now you should be back.
Hi. Thank you for that. Yes, so I was talking about the metaverse. Really, there's 1,000 definitions, but I would say that don't accept the one that centralized companies are giving to you and telling you conveniently, because I think fundamentally the metaverse has to be built in a open standard. Right? It's a place where people can live, work, and play and think about, right? In the virtual space, right? So with a shared context, shared history, there's persistence, which means that it's always online, right? You can spend your life living there, thinking about it. There's interconnectivity between different kind of experiences, which is why it's called meta, right? So universe, then just like metaphysics is kind of like thinking about so it goes meta. So that's a metaverse. I think that's one way you can kind of think about it. The one definition that I really like related to metaverse as a hit space, right? So the amount of hit space that you spend actually thinking about things and events in the virtual world, like then the more you are spending time in the metaverse. And I like that a lot more. Oh, I'm sorry about the sound. Yeah, I'm outside, but yeah, I'll come back in. Yep. So I don't know if I can enter now. I'm really sorry, guys. I know this is a really odd session, but yeah, please if you like, please go ahead and ask any questions.
Yeah. So we have one question, and actually the sound is good now, so don't worry at all. We have one question earlier from Evie, who's asking, what are different ways that NFTs are used in gaming and in the metaverse, now that we understand gaming and metaverse are two completely different concepts, right? So how would you use an NFT in each of those worlds?
Yeah, so like fundamentally an NFT really is just metadata, right? So it's a proof of ownership or a record of ownership of some bit of data. And so the possibilities are kind of limitless there. Yeah, but I'll talk about some of the possibilities that are sort of the actual things that we've seen that kind of operate, right? So if you think about like games, I think people who play games, who spend the time working in games, thinking about games, will be, familiar with this idea of like digital asset ownership, right? So the idea that you have this asset that contains some data, like about like, for example, your level or your character or like the amount of items you have, all of these things can be represented as NFTs. And when they become represented as NFTs, you unlock all of the additional tooling that people are building around these sort of open items on a public ledger, right? So the interesting thing there would be like, well, now you can trade them on marketplaces if that's what you want to enable in your NFT, right? But at the same time, even if you don't want to use those things, you can build out your own tooling when that tooling is composable. Yeah. Where do I imagine an actual functional metaverse originates from? Oh, this is a very, very, very big question, man. I'm definitely no visionary in this regard. Yeah, so I really can't answer you in that. Yeah, but I can speak about I can speak a bit more about like different ways NFTs are used in the metaverse and gaming. There's a lot I can go into, but if you wish to read and learn more about this and engage more on this topic, like please feel free to reach out to me on like Twitter, or like Twitter is the best. Yeah, or like LinkedIn, I guess, if you wish. But yeah, I will share my Twitter, drop my Twitter and the thing
Yeah,
in the
I
chat.
share it.
We
No
can
worries.
address a different question. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, I just got a question regarding where an actual functional metaverse originates from. Yeah, so I think really the jury is out, right? I don't think I can predict like which will win in the long run, because one, I don't have like direct visibility into whether like all of the work that companies like Meta, for example, are doing to build out this metaverse. I will say that I'm excited for composability of sort of blockchain assets, and the work that blockchain companies are sort of crypto native or blockchain companies are working on in order to like develop open standards for metaverse and such. Regards to like how NFTs are handled, that's one really, right? But then there are plenty of folks working on very interesting problems like standards for land in the metaverse, and I think when I talk about composability, I don't just mean like forking code and then building on top of that, right? It's you're not just forking the game systems. Like when I say fork, I mean like to take existing code and then like basically reuse it somewhere else, right? You also can fork even data, right? So game data when it's stored on chain, that's another very exciting kind of rabbit hole to go down. Yeah, but yeah, I've just kind of like, I think my intention here was just kind of give like a bit of taste of everything, right? It's a huge topic. Yeah, it's a really, really huge topic. And I can kind of dive in like for, lots and lots of minutes for any of these kind of questions. But
Yeah,
I would definitely like to reserve some, just like kind of pique the curiosity and continue the conversation in other
no,
ways.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. We have like about 4 minutes left, and one of the questions is actually maybe from a bird's perspective before we go into that question about the big game developers. What are actually currently, what is the status of technology in the gaming industry, and then what is the next level? Because you are also on the investment side, so you will see like the assumption is that you can share with us some big trends that people are funneling money into, and the problems they're trying to solve for that part of the industry.
So the question was related to the trends that we're seeing
Exactly.
when investing,
Yeah,
and the technology that people are
yeah,
building in crypto right
exactly.
now.
In the games
Yeah,
industry,
so
because you know, for an outsider, it's quite difficult to understand which problems have already been solved and which are actually problems that an outsider wouldn't even understand that they are big problems. But if these are not solved, then, you know, the industry will not evolve, or the sub-industry will not evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a really good question. Thank you. Yeah. So, uh, two big challenges that I'm personally quite excited about, and one of the big challenges is decentralized identity, right? So DID, and related to games, how decentralized identity relates to games is this problem called the cyber resistance, right? So how do you prevent people from creating like many personas or many accounts, creating bots and such like that in the games? With open game economies, bots matter even more, like are even more of a problem, because once you kind of ruin the economy, then the games will not be able to progress in that kind of way. So decentralized identity, or like a way to kind of say like, hey, I am this one person and I really am just one person playing the game, is a very big problem that we like to see solved, and we spend a lot of time thinking about these things as well. Be it through like building reputation by like human type actions on chain and such like that. But this problem fundamentally is like going to be a cat and mouse type thing, right? As people like build systems to kind of try and basically ensure that one person is one person, right? With decentralized identity, like others will learn how to game it and like build that out. As for what are the necessary steps towards digital identity, okay, sorry, whereas it's a different question. Just one decentralized identity primitive that we would like to see. Yeah, and second would be like more tooling around building the games, because now it's like kind of free for all-ish, right? Third, so on-chain game engines of big interest to us. Third, I think is like interoperability, right? So and when I say interoperability, I mean across chains. It's like cross-chain communication, or they call it IBC, inter-blockchain communication. That's like a big, I think Unit is a great example of that, right? Like especially building like True Cosmos and Substrate. So, I think Yip is the expert here, and I'll defer to her kind of judgment on that. Yeah, so that's
cool.
Yeah, that's my answer to
so
that.
We have time for
finally,
one question. Oh yeah, okay, go. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'll just answer the big publishers and game developers questions.
Yeah.
I will say that we are in conversation with quite a few like either teams that came from like traditional gaming studios, like, and then have exited those studios. So teams like from companies like EVE Online, for example, right, are looking now to like build, or already are building, right, blockchain based games, and they're like fully sold on this. Other teams are more exploratory, right, partly for like regulatory reasons, right? They're worried of that risk. So there are even like infrastructure players such as Forte that are looking into like building blockchain sort of blockchain game platforms that are more compliant, right? So they handle all the compliance side, which kind of reduces the regulatory risk of building these games on chain. Yes, there is kind of a tug of war there. Yeah, I can't say a lot of the names just because NDAs and privacy and all these things. But I assure you that some of the biggest publishers are actually looking into this quite deeply. And of course, there are others that take a very hardline stance and a bit louder about it, right? So, for example, Steam has chosen to ban NFTs. Other games have not managed to, even with their NFT launches, like such as Neopets, right? They've not managed to like take off in the way that they hoped. Others still are trying, like Habbo Hotel, for example, also releasing the NFTs and trying to provide them utility. I think that's a bit more success, right? So Arcade. But yeah, so I would say that there are, as with any kind of new emerging technology, right? There's always going to be people I like to call it frontier technology. There's always going to be people who are skeptics, right? And there's always going to be people who want to build and experiment and try new things. And I think, I hope I'm the latter camp at least. Yeah. So I think with that, I think that's all the time I have today. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something today about gaming in the metaverse. I know it's a rather odd one because I was in a cab and now I'm outside, but it's all right. I hope you had a good time and it was interesting to you guys.
It's unique. Yeah, this was a unique session. We had one more where the instructor was walking through a Finnish forest. So thank you actually so much for taking this time and share your insights live out of Slush with us. And also thank you for staying outside in the cold. I can actually see while you're speaking how the steam comes out. So appreciate that you took the time to be with us. And just for everyone else, before we end the session, next week we'll have the founder of Energy Web, Singularity Grid, joining us on Tuesday session, and then on Thursday, the CEO of Regen Network. So you also hear about topics that look into like sustainability and beyond, all these kinds of just yield chasing in the blockchain world. Hope everybody comes back to us, and please fill the key takeaway survey, and we will share like Ryan's Twitter info again in the chat group. Thanks, guys, everyone, and thank you, Ryan. Have a good one.
Thank you.